Welcome to the 180 Life Coach Podcast, home of the Becoming Movement, a place for awareness, truth, healing, rebuilding, and becoming. A journey of understanding who you were, who you are, and if you're ready, becoming who you were always meant to be. Because it isn't over. You're still becoming. And now, here's your host, Ingra Michelle Williams.
Have you ever known exactly what you needed to do and you still haven't done it? Have you ever promised yourself that this time things are going to be different? Have you ever felt stuck in the same cycles, repeating patterns in your life? Have you ever looked back and realized that you've been having the same struggles, sometimes for years? Well, welcome to 180 Life Coach. My name is Ingra Michelle Williams, and I'm your host. And today we're going to talk about why some people never change. I can say that I was one of those people for about, at least 30 years. 30 years is a long time. And the reason why I even started doing this work was because I felt stuck. I felt stuck in my life. I felt stuck in patterns. I felt stuck in my thinking. And I would feel at certain moments of my life, I would feel like I was actually making progress. And so I describe my life in circles. And this is what I always would say, oh my God, I'm in the same circle. Okay. So if you imagine a circle and you start at the top, better yet, let's start at the bottom because bottom is better. You take your pen, put them at the bottom of a piece of paper. So I would be at a point in my life and I would feel like I was making traction. Things in my life would be getting better. Whether I got a new job, I was making more money. I was happier. I was able to attain some goals, do some things. I was making progress. And so as long as I was making progress, I was making the trajectory of upward in that circle. And I would be growing. I'm feeling proud of myself. And then I would get to the point of my life where it seemed like now I'm at this point, everything starts to decline, whether it's finances, whether it's relationships, whether it's money, whether it's career. I would start to feel like there was a subtle decline in my life, and I would end up at the same point where I was, only to start all over again. It was very frustrating. So I was trying desperately to understand myself and why I was doing this to myself. One of the things I went in a circle about until I really allowed myself to make lasting change because I was a person who didn't think I was even capable of enough discipline to stop my bad habits. What bad habit did you have? Let's just use smoking. I would tell myself, I'm going to stop smoking. And there was times I would stop smoking and life would happen, situations would happen, and then I'd be right back to smoking again. And then I'd be sitting there looking at myself, disgusted because I don't want to smell like a cigarette and thinking, why am I doing this to myself? And so when you put something down and then you pick it back up and then you put it down, that's what we call a pattern. And we can apply that to multiple things in our lives. And I was tired of going through it. And so we're going to talk about why some people never change, because you're going to find that we're all capable of change. We've just been looking at this issue wrong, okay? And so the first point that I want to think about is people inherently, we stay stuck in our current situations. It's because most people, myself included, we don't want to have to go through a period of uncertainty. And so we will resist something that's uncertain in our lives. So people will say that they want change, but what they really want is better results. They want to have less pain, more peace, and more confidence. But when we don't know how that's going to happen. It's almost easier to stay where I am until it becomes more painful, until we realize that we don't have the confidence, that we lack peace, that we may consider to move. So most people will stay stuck simply because the movement, the action of creating change creates uncertainty. People will always go with what is familiar and what feels safe. So when we think about relationships, we'll do certain things. We'll stay in relationships, even relationships that we know no longer fit in our lives, because being in that relationship gives us a measure of certainty. If I'm not in this relationship, I don't know what that's going to be like. So there is the uncertainty. We'll stay in jobs that make us miserable because we don't want to risk the uncertainty of trying to figure out what's on the other side. At least I know the people I'm working with here. At least I know what kind of boss I have. Trust me, I'm only using these examples because I've walked through them. And so we'll stay because that's what we know to do. We stay in habits that we know keep us stuck because those things feel safe. They feel familiar. We will stay in thought patterns that hurt us. We'll stay doing things that don't honor who we are because at least I feel certain. I feel comfortable. I feel that this is familiar. And what is familiar is predictable. I'll deal with Tony because I know what Tony does. Tony only gonna fuss on Saturday when he drink too much. And so we'll do things, we'll make decisions even when we know we need to change. It's because of the familiarity. We also build our personal identities around our experiences. So what do you mean by that? Some people will stop growing because they become attached to a story. My story gives me identity. So let me just give you an example of that. I would say, I always like doing 10 things. When my friends would say, Ingra, you're always doing a lot of things. That's just what I do. I like doing 10 things. That's how I function. I'm a high mental achiever. Well, the truth was, I had attention deficit. And so my brain was working at a higher level. And once I became consciously aware of the situation, it wasn't what I was. It was an issue that I had that I was able to learn how to train myself to work within the perimeters of the way my brain wanted to work. It gave me a deeper understanding of who I was, that I was not this person who just preferred to do 10 things. It was just the way that my brain worked. So I had associated an identity of a busybody, basically, somebody who had to constantly do different projects. But no, I didn't choose. It was the way my brain preferred to work, not the way I prefer to work. So somebody might say, I've always been shy, Ingra. I don't do this. Or I've always struggled with money. Or I've never been disciplined. Or I'm just not confident. And in my case, oh, I just don't like kids. Now, if you go back to the first story that I told in episode 1, I talked about the fact that I didn't understand why I could deal with kids being up the street. I loved kids. I could play with kids. Kids could come around me as long as I'm out on the street. If I'm at work, I'm like, oh, she's so cute. But once they came into my personal space at home, I felt something inside of me that felt very uncomfortable. And I just thought that I just didn't like kids in my personal space. It wasn't until I was able to do this work that I really felt that, is this really who Ingra is, or is this who Ingra became? Because if I'm going to keep saying this, it's about understanding who you were. It's about understanding who you are. And if you're ready, it's about becoming who you were always meant to be. So when we think about these identities that we've associated ourselves with, The real question becomes, what if there's a description of your past and not a definition of your future? What if all of these things were a description of your past and not a definition of your future? So when I said I don't like kids, I'm learning to love them, even in my personal spaces. I don't any longer feel the same internal conflict because once I was able to identify and get real with what was really taking place, I was able to identify the root and get rid of it. And so, what was a description of my past is no longer a definition of my current or my future. The next thing some people never change, the next reason why should I say some people never change, is because change requires honesty. And that brings me to a conversation I just had today with someone really close to me. They've been working with me, and I have been talking with them about the becoming movement and the pillars. And we have just had open dialogue. This is what I've discovered, and this is what I know for sure, and this is what I want to bring to people. And they came to me today in a random conversation and said, I was thinking about everything that you've been sharing with me. And I feel like the work that you're doing is going to help a lot of people because I know that you've just been talking to me about these things, but through our conversations, I've been convicted. And through my conviction, I realize that a lot of things I have been fighting within myself is because I don't want to admit that I need to change. I don't want to get honest. And so the reason why we think and we fight again because it's unfamiliar. And this is not about being perfect. It's about getting honest because once we get honest with ourselves and we start to really look at a lens of truth, we can really put our fingers on the things that no longer serve us. So when I say get honest, am I really happy in this relationship? Am I happy in my life? Am I really growing and doing the things that I desire to do with my life? Or am I just going through it every day? Is this the life I want? Or is this the life I've settled for? Am I making excuses because I'm not ready to yet change because it's unfamiliar? Awareness without honesty does not create change. Now, I'm going to go back to earlier when I talked about the smoking issue. I kept saying I wanted to stop. I wanted to stop. I wanted to stop. But the truth was, hear me, the truth was, I liked holding that cigarette in my hand. I liked inhaling those toxins in my lungs because I thought it was keeping me calm. I thought it was giving me peace. I thought it was helping me to manage my stress. But that was a lie that I was telling myself to justify my bad behavior. Even though I knew with every inhale it was costing me something, I would not be honest enough with myself to admit what it was. It wasn't until it was like, you know what? I'm so sick of these darn cigarettes. I'm sick of the way they smell. I'm sick of the smoke. I would look in the air and just see the swirls, toxins floating in the air. Every time I walked into the garage, it was like walking into a living ashtray. It was little dust particles from the little flickers of the ash that fell off. And if I picked up a jacket that I left in the garage, it smelled like smoke. And it disgusted me. But because I continued to lie to myself, to continue to justify all of the bad behavior. And I finally had to stop the madness once and only once I got honest. The next way we try to resist change is because we feel stuck in a way, because we feel like what we're doing is protecting us. As human beings, we are very, very powerful in terms of our bodies doing what it feel it needs to protect us. The brain will shut down. It will suppress. It will hide, even from ourselves, things in an effort to protect us. People will not do anything. They will not move in a way that will cause harm. It is not psychologically built into our DNA to do anything that would hurt or self-harm us. And so a lot of people won't change because they're in a pattern of protecting themselves. They protect themselves against failure, against rejection, against disappointment, against being vulnerable. Because a lot of us have people in our lives that we call friends. We protect ourselves even from our friends because we don't trust our friends. What are you talking about, Ingra? We won't come to them and share what's really going on. We have one version of ourselves that they know, and then we have the truth. I don't want to tell my family that I'm really suffering or Johnny's over here kicking my butt and I'm not happy. I don't want to tell nobody that my husband is really cheating on me because at least we got the house and the kids. And because if I say that, it's going to somehow be a judgment on me. And so I continue to lie and I continue to live in a situation that doesn't honor me because guess what? It's familiar. And we don't want to go to the unfamiliar. At least I know what Johnny's doing, right? And so we're protecting ourselves. We're protecting ourselves even in the way that we think, because if I have to admit change is necessary, that means something is wrong with me. And I've heard that from people. I don't want to hear what you have to say because you're not going to tell me that something is wrong with me. Some people will never go to see a therapist because if I go to the mental health doctor, then I'm saying something is wrong with me. And so it's better for me to protect myself and stay in my story. But the problem is the same walls that we build up to protect ourselves are the same walls that trap us. Let me say that one more time. The same walls that you're building up around yourself to protect yourselves are the same walls that will trap you. They trapped me for 30 years. But see, the difference is I was sharing some of my thoughts. And through the years, I started sharing more my thoughts because I was desperately seeking truth and understanding of myself. Don't get caught behind the wall. Don't let the wall harm you. Don't let it trap you into thinking that change is not necessary or that it's a negative thing. I promise you, it is a beautiful thing. What I want you to know, there is so many different ways. At my job, we had all kind of services. They would send us things in the mail about therapy services, doctors you can see, exercise places you can go, anything that you could think that was out there, you could find it, or somebody was offering it to you. The information is not the problem. We have access to the information. We know that we need to eat better. We need to move more. We need to set healthy boundaries and healthy relationships. That we need to stop people pleasing. That maybe I need to get out of this relationship with this man who's abusing me. That I know that drinking this alcohol is killing me and destroying me, just like I knew cigarettes are bad. You know, crazy story. I got to laugh at myself when I say that, because when I say it's not that we know, we don't know, because information is highly available. It's available. It was available for me. When I went on a cruise one time, you know, typically you don't buy cigarettes on a cruise, but I bought a pack of cigarettes while I was on the cruise. And it was crazy because when they gave me the pack of cigarettes, they had a big, it wasn't even a sticker. It was made onto the actual carton. And it had this big message saying, smoking cigarettes kills you. And it didn't stop me from opening that pack of cigarettes and smoking it, even though the information was right in my face. See, in America, we don't have those same messages, but somewhere on the side of the package in itty bitty teeny weeny letters, it'll say something like, the Surgeon General has found that smoking causes cancer, something like that. Who looks at the side of the cigarette package and it's buried. But here it was, a big block on the front where you have to see it in your face. Smoking kills you. And I continued. So it goes to say that it's not that we lack information. Information is not the problem. Knowledge is not the excuse. Lack of action, that's the problem. We have the information, but we won't move. And the reason that we won't move is because of fear. Fear is a very, very, very strong emotion. And I would even dare to challenge that fear now is so familiar to us that we are almost on autopilots walking through our lives. And as soon as we want to get out of the box and break free, and that little inkling of fear, it pushes us right back into the box. And it's happened so much in our lives that now again it's become familiar. You don't move, you don't challenge, you don't change because of fear. I have this huge fear of failure. And because I have this fear of failure, it would stop me from doing a lot of things. And I remember one time, many, many years ago, me and my husband were in the gym. At the time, we were just dating. He was in really, really great shape. And he was like, okay, I'm going to teach you, do this, do that. And he was giving me all these exercises and I was doing them. And I felt like he was really impressed, like, wow, I didn't think she could do that. So he was like, do these leg presses. And I'm doing the leg presses. I'm like, my legs are my strongest part. And I promise you guys, he had like 6 50-pound plates on this leg press machine. And he was like, do it. And I pressed and he was like, that's amazing. He's like, now get over there and give me 10 push-ups. And I'm thinking, okay. And so I get off the leg press machine and I start doing push-ups, but that has always been the weakest part of my body. I go to start doing it. He's like, keep going, keep going. And I'm like, yeah, I can do this. Yeah. And so I'm pushing, 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 pushing. And I kept pushing to the point that I fell flat on my face. When I say flat on my face, arms would not go. And I jumped up off the floor so fast. And I was so angry that I never let him train me again. The first thing I did when I got off the floor is I looked around because I wanted to know who was watching. And I would never allow him to challenge me in a way that I thought I could not complete the task. So we would go to the gym the next time and he'd be like, okay, give me 10 push-ups. And I'm like, no, I wouldn't even try. Why? Because I had a memory of failure and I did not want to experience that again. See, the first time I was feeling pretty good about myself. I was like, I can do this. But now here I am the second time. Now it's a part of who I am. That one event was now programmed in my mind. We don't do that because we're not going to fail. And I'm a person who I do not like to fail. And he was like, come on, just do, okay, give me 5. No, I'm not doing it. And I never have since. But every day when I go down in my own garage and I'm working out, I will push up and push up and push up. I will try anything because I have a layer of protection. The world can't see me. There's no one in the garage but me. So guess what? If I fail, nobody's going to be standing there to watch me. Fear will stop us. And once we can identify that we have a fear of something, then the challenge becomes, I'm going to move past it. How do you do that, Ingra? By the small decisions that you make every day that start to shape a new identity. See, most people think that real change comes in these life-changing, huge, gigantic moments where the lights flash on and all of a sudden in a blaze of glory, I come out there and I'm able to do push-ups on my pinky toes. No, Real life-changing, impacting decisions start one small decision at a time, not in giant moments. Happens in one conversation, one decision, one boundary that you set. Johnny, I'm not going to let you treat me like this anymore. You cannot raise your voice at me anymore. That one decision, getting up and taking that one walk, doing that one workout, repeated over and over and over and over. When you look up, you look back, and you realize how far you've come. My life had gotten so out of hand that I didn't even recognize myself. When I came out of the garage the day that I stopped smoking, it was like blinders that was once on my eyes, like they fell off like scales. Things that I was doing that wasn't honoring myself, my body, my life. It was almost like all of a sudden I had this clarity. But the strange thing was, I didn't like the clarity. I had to get used to it. And it was day by day, one small shift after another small shift. And one day I decided I need to get back working out. What was the heaviest weight I had ever been in my life? And when I looked in the mirror, I didn't recognize the person looking back. And I said to myself, when I'm strong in my body, I'm strong in my mind. I ought to start working out again. And the first day that I put on my workout clothes and I stood and I looked into the mirror, I did not like the woman who I had become. I didn't like the reflection. And all I kept saying to myself, how did I allow myself to get here? And I could have stopped. I could have given up. I could have said, it's not worth it. Can't do it. I'm too weak. I'm too sick. I'm too old. But it was important. It was important because I was on a path of becoming and nothing was insurmountable. And I was like, I'm going to finally get healthy because I've been wanting to get healthy for a long time. And we're putting down all these bad habits and these bad things. And I started tracking everything, guys. And I was like, oh my God, I done got so fat. When did I become this person? And I set a goal for myself. I said, I want to lose 71 pounds. Initially, I said 61 because 61 was always my safe. I want to get here. 71 would have put me at where I really wanted to be. And the new Ingra was like, we are not settling. I was like, I'm going to lose the 71. And I got up every day, even when it hurt. And when my body was tired, I rested. And guess what? One day, I looked into the mirror and I was like, hey, where you been? And it happened and I didn't even realize when it happened. And that in itself is the beauty of becoming, is when you finally see yourself, not as who you were, but who you were always meant to be. I didn't recreate that image in the mirror. Life had layered itself on top of me. And I made a decision it no longer would. So, as you're sitting here, maybe the question isn't, why haven't I changed? Maybe the better question is, what is keeping me where I am? Because once you understand what's holding you back, you can finally start moving forward. It is so beautiful on the other side. And even if you're a little nervous, you don't have to be. It starts with the little thing. And I want you to keep staying with me. And if you haven't had the opportunity, please go to 180lifecoach.com. There is a becoming manual that I want you to download and I want you to start looking at. Because when we come back for the next podcast, we're going to talk about the cost of not changing, because it is costing you. So thank you for your time. Please share me with a friend. Share me with someone that you love, because becoming is so beautiful when you have it to share with someone else and bounce ideas and reflections and thoughts. To support me, please make sure that you go onto all of my social media platforms. I'm on TikTok, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, as well as YouTube. You can also follow me right here on your favorite streaming platform as we continue to build. I love you guys. Until then, God bless.
Thank you for joining us on the 180 Life Coach podcast. Remember, awareness is where it begins. What you do with that awareness is your choice. And becoming is your decision. Because it isn't over. It's just the beginning.